We've all been in the kitchen about to bake a cake and thought, what does this remind me of? The Industrial Revolution, you're right. Well, in the History Hub kitchen, we've had that thought. The question we're tackling is, why was Britain the first country to experience an industrial revolution? And we're going to do it with cake. Got it? Good. The analogy, it goes like this. To bake a cake, you need a variety of ingredients mixed just the right way. Your butters, your flours, your sugars, your eggs. The same can be said for the Industrial Revolution. It needed just the right ingredients. These included a comparatively stable political system and rule of law, particularly laws related to property and contracts. It needed commercial agriculture, essential to sustaining an increasingly urban industrial workforce. You also needed ready capital for investment in developing industrial machines and building factories. Comparatively high wages to make investing in these machines worthwhile and to ensure there was a ready market to consume the goods they produced. And of course, the fuel to power those machines. Britain was the first country in which the Industrial Revolution took off because a number of conditions, some underlying, some emerging, were all present during the end of the 18th and into the 19th centuries. Several other countries had some of these conditions, but Britain was the first to find itself with all of them. Let's make an industrial revolution. First up is butter. This wants to be at room temperature, not too cold and hard, not too soft and melted. Your political system is obviously butter. It needs to be at just the right temperature. Now, it kind of goes without saying that revolutions, civil war, internal disorder are not good for business. If you want to set up your own steam-powered cotton mill, you want things to be nice and stable. Likewise, if you're going to invest lots of money in a new factory, it helps to know that the state can't just seize this property. Britain's industrial pioneers enjoyed a comparatively stable political climate, or at least one that proved remarkably resilient during the age of revolutions. And thanks to the ascendancy of Parliament, a stable government that prized the protection of private property above almost everything else. Let's sift our dry ingredients. Now, if you're going to build that steam-powered mill, you're going to need laborers and lots of them. The agricultural revolution, which you can find out about in another of our videos, meant that more food could be produced with fewer hands, which freed up laborers to move into the cities to take up better paid jobs in the mills. So next we're going to combine our sugar with the flour and butter. But wait, where does the money come from to build these factories and invest in these revolutionary machines? The expansion of Britain's overseas trade and colonial exploitation injected a huge amount of cash into the British economy. But we must not forget the human costs that this entailed. If we look at sugar, for example, in this period, this was cultivated in the British West Indies through slave labour. Likewise, if we think about who was growing and harvesting all of that cotton that was processed in Britain's industrial textile mills, even after Britain abolished slavery, again we find enslaved Africans, this time in the American South. The expansion of trade and resulting boom in manufacturing, buoyed in particular by the reopening of trade to America in 1783 and a war with France in 1793, led to greater urbanization, with the population of London jumping from 50,000 in 1500 to 1 million in 1800. So we're going to incorporate all our eggs and we're going to make sure to get the batter all the way down from the sides of the bowl. Now, as Britain's economy and cities grew, so did wages. This had the effect of making industrial technology a worthwhile investment, something that could reduce production costs and dramatically increase profits. There was Richard Arkwright's water frame, James Hargreaves' spinning jenny, Edmund Cartwright's power loom, and perhaps above all, Matthew Boulton and James Watt's steam engines all raised labour productivity. By contrast, in countries like Imperial Russia, where wages were low, there was little incentive to innovate and invest in machinery. It's far less risky to simply hire more hands. So you could argue that the technological innovations we associate with the Industrial Revolution, they first took off in Britain because this was where it paid to invent them. Okay, we're going to take a teaspoon of baking powder, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and just a sprinkle of salt to balance the sweetness. Now, Britain's comparatively high wages and profitable manufacturing base also led to a consumer revolution, creating a growing domestic market for the manufactured or processed goods that factories could generate in greater volume and at low cost. Okay, we're going to preheat the oven and then we're going to bake this Industrial Revolution for about 50 minutes. Now, for our Industrial Revolution to really rise, we can't forget the most important ingredient, coal. As Britain's manufacturing base expanded and cities grew, traditional sources of fuel, wood and charcoal, couldn't keep up with demand, leading to a greater extraction of coal. Coal provided an efficient source of controllable heat, the ideal fuel for the Industrial Revolution and its steam engines. Britain had both an abundant supply of coal and led the world in mining. In the 1700s, Britain mined 3 million tons of coal. By 1800, this had risen to 15 million tons. Combined with investment in the infrastructure, like canals and railways, to move coal cost-effectively to where it needed to be, coal power freed the economy from its earlier energy constraints, limited to what could be produced by man or horsepower. We should remember, though, that even with all these ingredients at hand, an industrial revolution was not guaranteed. Unlike baking, understanding vast historical processes is not an exact science. So, there you have it. Baking a cake is kind of like the Industrial Revolution. Kind of.